As y'all know, I love to talk about messaging and identifying who you're serving, who you're trying to reach, because that makes it successful for them, successful for you. And today we have an amazing guest that pushes the envelope a little bit further. We're digging into, and stick with me, but we're digging into the purpose, our purpose, how to find our purpose, and how to inject that into business. Why is this important? Well, we've been on this entire series about simplifying to scale up, right? My goal is to get y'all to be able to scale quicker, but through simplifying. What is one of the best ways to do that? Identifying your messaging and drilling into your purpose, putting that purpose into the messaging, and really serving your consumer and yourself. Remember, real biz, real life. So join me with this episode. It's a little bit of a long one, but it's wonderful information. I encourage you to grab a pen and a piece of paper so you can take a lot of notes.
Welcome to the Business Bites Podcast, the podcast for busy entrepreneurs. Whether you're an online entrepreneur or seeking after brick and mortar success, this podcast brings you quick bites of content so you can learn and grow anywhere you are. Now here's your host, Rachel Brainke.
Before we dig into this episode, don't forget the Real Biz, Real Life free challenge is coming up soon. It will be released, but we're only doing it to the wait list. So make sure that you are jumping onto rachelbrainke.com, getting signed up for that. This is not going to be like those typical like Pinterest download things. We are going to dig into some of the top tough issues, and I am going to do a lot more teaching and just injecting information to you. We're going to learn together, we're going to grow together, and it's all going to be completely free. So make sure you sign up for the wait list so you can join us. This week, I am joined with Miranda Joyner. She is an incredible woman entrepreneur. And what I love about what we're going to dig into today is that we are talking about our past, and we're going to dig into also identifying what makes you authentic with your audience. You know, the last few weeks we've been digging into simplifying to scale up, and a lot of that has to do with like simplifying your message, getting your unique selling proposition out there. Because like Miranda is a brand strategist, but you're going to see what makes her unique against all the hundreds of thousands that are out there. Much like y'all listen to me because, I'm an attorney, business strategist, but I definitely don't approach it in the same ways that many do. That's my unique selling proposition. So we're going to dig in. I'm really, really, really excited for this topic because I feel like we're coming to the end of the year. And, at the beginning of the year, we get so excited in getting our business together. And I feel like taking the time to simplify and also focus on your messaging is what you need. And this is going to be the kickoff for it. So Miranda, welcome.
Hi, Rachel. Thanks for having me.
I am so thrilled with this. So wait, you're a mom of a teenager as well, right?
Listen, a whole teenager, and he feels like a grown man that needs a job. So anyone out there hiring a 15-year-old, let me know.
Hey, I have a 15-year-old son. He's my oldest. And actually, I've hired him to help with like the podcast and video stuff.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Let me correct myself. I did that like 9 months ago. Ask me how much work he's done.
Probably about 3%, I would imagine.
If that.
Okay. Yeah. We have the same son then.
He's a teenager. So, what I love about your background is you're not like the typical we hear about, I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur and I did that from the very beginning and came from an entrepreneurship family. You worked as an on-air personality, including the morning show for 3.5 years. Explain what that experience was like and how you got into that.
Yeah. So really doing radio was really something I think that was very helpful in my connection to people and understanding and listening to stories. I know that it has played a pivotal part in that, but I also know that this was ingrained in me from like the beginning of time with me wanting to connect to people and their stories. But I got into radio actually back in 2003. I started interning at a radio station here locally because I had to spend an extra semester in college because I forgot one class to graduate. And it was during that extra semester where I was dropping that beautiful $8,000 for another semester that I got the internship at the radio station and eventually started working there full time. And part time for years, and then eventually got to a full time space and did the morning show with a couple of people. But the transition into that was really exciting. I often tell the story about how the first time my mother heard my voice on the radio because it was really a unique story as well. She, my mother was a teacher here in Jackson Public Schools for 33 years before she passed away. And
Mhm.
so, my grandmother worked at a plant for 22 years before the plant shut down. So I really didn't have that entrepreneurial bug. So when
Mhm.
I went into things like radio and things like that, for them, it was kind of foreign because they were like, well, what are you
Mhm.
going to do with that?
Mhm.
It was
Mhm.
like, where do you go with that type of job? But when I was interning there, one of the on-air personalities came into the room and he needed a voice for a commercial that he was doing. And what happened was he saw this person in the building that was a new voice, brought me into the production room and sat me down in front of the microphone and said, "Hey, listen, I'm doing this commercial for these strippers that are coming to town, and I need you to lean into the microphone and pretend like it's your boyfriend's ear that you're whispering in his ear and read this copy. And I'm going to be right outside the door and I'm going to come back. It's recording you now. So you good?"
Girl,
I'm
I'm
like,
dying. I'm dying. I could just picture Mama's face. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead with the rest of the story. I'm like dying laughing over here.
so he closes the door and I'm sitting in this dim lit production room and I'm like, okay. So I do a few takes. I try to sound as sexy as possible, and put on my best, what I assume is a stripper voice. I'm trying to sound strippery, whatever that is. And
Strippery. He's gonna
you
make some great quotes for Twitter once we
you
publish this
know,
episode.
you know. So once he heard what I did, I guess he was so impressed. He invited me to sit in with him on the morning shows. And so what I would do is I would sit in as the intern. I didn't even have a name when I first jumped on the airwaves, but I'm pretty sure my mom heard that commercial. And so us riding in the car, me going, "Hey mom, the commercial's on that I was telling you about." And her waiting to hear my voice and then just looking at me and saying, "Okay, so are you in radio or are you stripping? Like, help me to understand what's happening here." But he invited me on to be the intern. And so when I first got on the airwaves, I was only known as the intern. I didn't even have a name. And the program director heard me on the air, was really impressed. And then by luck and chance, someone quit, a weekend personality quit. And I was offered that slot that became available. So I had like 4 hours every weekend to get my feet wet in radio. And that
That's
turned into a span of about 15 plus years of doing radio.
That is incredible. I love that. So, how did that? I mean, was that the foundation for getting you into becoming the co-creator and host of Synergy Nights, which is a monthly open mic, or did that? How did that all come together?
Absolutely, without a doubt. Me transitioning in and out, the radio station I work at is like a family. So even if you leave for a little bit, you're coming back. And so in the last stint that I was there, I I've always been a poet. My mother was a writer. I'm a writer. I have an affinity for the arts and for poetry and for creatives because I myself am part creative. I think we
Mhm,
all are, especially it benefits you greatly if you're an entrepreneur
mhm,
to tap into
mhm,
your creativity, to tap into your imagination. It is the beautiful thing that I enjoy the most about being an entrepreneur is that I get to create whatever space I want. I get to create whatever
mhm.
type of experience I want my clients to have based off of their needs. But I was really in a drought when it came to writing because writing used to be therapeutic for me when I was younger. And what happened was I was back at the radio station and I was surrounded by all these artists and people. And I didn't feel like I had an outlet because at the time we didn't have an open mic that was active here in the city. And so, in talks with a friend, I collaborated with a guy here that is a saxophonist. He had this great idea about combining and fusing music and poetry. And we just collaborated on this event. And what, honestly, selfishly, what I did was I decided to go forward with this because I wanted to surround myself with other artists and creatives and poets to inspire me because
I
I
love
just
it.
I was in a space where I was, kind of timid about going back into writing, and I just didn't really
Mhm.
feel like it was working for me anymore. And I was exhausted by life and just experiences. And so I started the open mic to just surround myself with creatives so that I could be inspired. And it turned into this whole culture of people that were, felt like family. Synergy is
Mhm.
by definition the it's where two or more things come together to produce an effect that's greater than thing that's done by itself. So synergy
Mhm.
in itself is where multiple things are combined to produce something greater than a single entity, right? And we did that with music, live painting, DJs. We do game giveaways. The audience feels just as much a part of the show as everyone else because there's the audience engagement. There are interactions, there are questions that they ask, and we have like open discussions and conversations. It's really quite the experience. And what we found was we were averaging about 80 to 100 people every show in this small enclosed area. And people who had never been to open mics, who were never exposed to poetry, were just
Mhm.
showing up and coming just because of someone would tell them, hey, you got to come to this. And so people were inviting their moms and their aunts. So you would have this eclectic group of people that were in their 20s and 30s, and then people that are in their 50s and 40s all in one room. So, yeah.
No, I love it. I think one of the key things that you said, which actually is almost a great segue into what we wanted to talk about today, but you're saying about creating an experience. You can, and that, I loved how, like, I scribbled that down when you said that because I felt so empowered just now when you said in entrepreneurship, and I'm paraphrasing, but you get to create your experience, you get to create your environment. And you just saw the fruits of what happens when you do that. Not only did it fulfill something that you need, because it's like what is, when you're on an airplane and they say, if we're losing oxygen, you always put your own mask on first, right? We have to be selfish in entrepreneurship. So you did that. You put your mask on by creating this environment so that you could be inspired. But then look at what the results were. You
Yeah.
also were touching the lives of other people, but it started with something what you desired for yourself.
Yes.
I
Absolutely.
love
100%.
I love that. So let's bring that into talking about your purpose is written in your past. I mean, now you're a brand strategist. You've worked with a bunch of entrepreneurs and creative types, helping them like connect with their audience through brand clarity. You've worked with, oh man, brands like Essence, Comedy Central, True TV, even your TEDx talk. Love it. Gonna link it on the show notes page for y'all to listen into. But let's talk a bit about using our past to finding our purpose. Like, is our purpose existing because of our past, or is it that we're gleaning our purpose out of our past experiences?
Yes, yes. So I want to say one thing before I respond to that, because with the TEDx talk, I actually didn't have a TEDx talk. I hosted the TEDx talk that we have here locally. So I was,
Sorry.
no, that's okay. I was the host for it. And as the host, while it was fun to move and progress everything along, I also was part of the planning committee as well. But as the host, they don't really record what you say, so they don't really care.
Well, what's funny about that, and I think I'm going to leave this in the episode now, is because when I was researching for this, it came up, and like when I Googled you,
Yeah.
that came up top. And so I was like, oh my gosh, look at all these reviews and all this
I
stuff. This is amazing.
know.
But then I was like, wait a minute. Now, when you just said that, I'm like, oh, first of all, I'm embarrassed because as a host, I should have clicked in and spent a little bit more time with it. But that's incredible because you're still getting steam out of that opportunity.
Isn't it beautiful? I love it. And I ride the wave of it. Trust me. I am not minimizing it at all because I have been a fan of TED Talks way before it even arrived here in our
Mhm.
state and came through. So I was over the moon about it. And if you had been following me at the time, as much as I talked about it on my social, you would have thought I had my own TED Talk. So it's totally okay.
Well,
Rachel,
but honestly, hosting is very difficult.
it
I feel
is.
like it takes a really unique skill set, which obviously with your background, with the radio and everything, but it is very difficult because sometimes you don't know what the other people are going to say in response.
Yes. You really do have to be quick with it and really take in a lot. So there's a lot to keep in mind because, like we were talking about, it's about creating an experience for the audience and
Mhm.
it's about connecting everything that's happening on stage to the people that are in the audience. You are absolutely controlling the energy of every event. And so
Mhm.
hosting really holds, a lot of
Power.
weight when it comes to, yeah, power and a
Mhm.
lot of weight. And so you really want to be careful about who you put in that position. So yeah, so I was honored when I was, when they, approached me with the opportunity to host because they absolutely approached me with the opportunity after I was on the committee to help plan it and I was elated. But yeah, so, really connecting to get to answering your question about the connectivity and how you find
Mhm.
purpose in your past and how that starts. A lot of the clients, the connection from Synergy really connected me to working with a lot of entrepreneurs. And what was happening was I connected to a comedian here that's, at the time was trying to build her career in comedy or just
Mhm.
kind of, seeing if that was an opportunity or an option. And I helped her to build her career. We worked together over a span of 4 years and got her connected to Comedy Central, to Essence, to touring with Ricky Smiley, and being on tour with a lot of notable comedians and on the road in a matter of 3 to 4 years. And in helping her build her career, what I realized in that moment was that I was really good at what I was doing, but there was a part of me that didn't feel fulfilled. And
Mm.
I really enjoyed helping her, but I felt like I was supposed to be doing more. And I could not avoid that. And so there were a series of events that happened that shifted me from one job to the next. And I remember sitting at my job on it was actually September 22nd, 2018. And I was really kind of searching for that thing because, like you said in the beginning of this podcast, I was one of those people where I always felt like I was just good at things. Like you could put me in any job and I could
Mhm.
excel. Like,
Mm.
hey, you put me here, I can figure it out, I can make it happen. And I was always envious of people who knew coming out the womb what they wanted
Mhm.
to do. They came out with a basketball or a trumpet or a pen,
Mhm.
or they came out an activist. And I'm just like, well, I knew that I
Mhm.
always loved people. I was always curious about the why in people. I was
Mm.
always, empowered by helping people. It always fueled me. Even in high school, when I was down, I would go to school and intentionally pour into people and be more loving to help me uplift my own mood. I
Mhm.
remember knowing and doing this at such a young age and always wanting to hear people's story. Like even when people were doing things that were unfavorable and everyone else wanted to crucify them, I remember always being the one silently thinking, but how did they get there? What
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah.
What is the story? What is the thing behind it? So
Mhm.
fast forward to the shift on September the 22nd, I was sitting at this job and under a not so kind boss. And I said, you know
Mhm.
what? This is just going to be my last day. And I told him, and he came in trying to, get me to stay. But I had just made up my mind. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to take a chance on myself because
Good
if
for
not
you.
now, when? I was doing so much work with the artist that I was working with, the entertainer, that we were
Mhm.
doing so much. I figured I could, you know, start my own business on the side to supplement what this job was giving me. So I
Mhm.
had multiple streams of income. I didn't just like quit cold turkey with no money in my bank account, but I definitely was taking a chance and a risk. And I decided if not now, when? And so September 22nd, I quit. November the 16th, I launched my brand as a full-time brand strategist. And what I found was that I was connecting people to purpose. I
Mhm.
had never felt so much into, I had never felt like I was walking in my purpose more than I did when I started seeing different people and helping them, because there
Mhm.
was so much fear there stepping out because I had only worked with her for the most part. And I had to ask myself, can I do this for people that aren't in entertainment? Can I do this for the everyday average
Mhm.
entrepreneur who is, a boutique owner, who is, a podcaster, who is a motivational speaker, who's a pole dancer, whatever you're doing in your life? Right.
You
Full
can use that
circle there.
sugar voice with them if you need to.
Exactly. Full circle moment. Can I help these people build a brand
Mhm.
that they love? And honestly, Rachel, if I'm being 100% transparent here, when I first started, I did not realize that I was going to be connecting so many people in purpose. It wasn't
Mhm.
until we started the sessions and I started the series of asking the right questions, formulating and putting together the right questions, that I was able to see those dots and connect the dots and say, hey, do you realize that this is something you've always been doing? Do you realize
Mhm.
that this moment that you're talking about here in your past, the parallel to what it is you're so passionate
Mhm.
about, this thing you're wanting to do? And,
Mhm.
and every time it kept happening over and over again. And I thought, oh my gosh, I have something here. And that's when
Go
it
ahead.
shifted. No, no,
I
that's when
love
it shifted.
Well, I was gonna say, like, from my own personal experience, is that I've been in entrepreneurship, oh my gosh, for so long.
Sure.
And I felt like if you had asked me, oh, what, 15 years ago, do you have good brand clarity? I'd be like, yep, and I know my purpose. But even just from sitting, hearing you talk and looking, I'm reflecting while you're speaking here, is over the last few years, all depend on my life circumstances, things that have happened. And in 2020 alone, started really tragic of a personal event. And it has forced me into the space of, and specifically when you were talking about, people getting crucified at school and you're wondering what, how they got there. I have been learning the process of being curious and asking why
Mm,
of myself and of others. I mean, and much like you, I didn't know that I wanted to go in entrepreneurship during like growing up through like grade school and such, I just knew that I didn't fit right. I didn't fit in the 9 to 5. I didn't fit in a regular classroom. I mean, I excelled, and actually I'd done a lot better if I had actually applied myself, but there was always something stirring there. So I guess my question to you would be, you're getting in with these clients and talking to them about the purpose, taking someone like myself, or even much like your clients, who they have all these experiences, but they're going, but I don't have a purpose. You're helping them shift their perspective. But how do you attract people that aren't even, maybe like it was me for the last 15 years, going, well, I know I'm good, but I actually wasn't really fulfilling the purpose that I was supposed to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. A very good question. And I want to say this to your curiosity, just to kind of tap into that and
Mhm.
confirm that for you, is that I met Elizabeth Gilbert. Are you familiar with Elizabeth Gilbert?
Yes, love her.
Yeah. Yeah, she has such a beautiful spirit. When you meet her in person, she has almost like a spiritual like presence
Mm.
about her. And she was at a luncheon that I was assisting with, and I got the pleasure of assisting her on a few things. And she gave a speech and talked about approaching things with the curiosity. And so when you said that, that was the first thing that popped up in my head, is that approaching things like death, approaching things that happen to us in our life with a sense of curiosity, and how it really does shift the way
Mm.
that you show up in the world and your spirit
Mm.
and your energy.
Mhm.
Whether it's grief or loss, I have experienced loss recently. And so
Right.
those things have really been helpful in just remembering that the world is not, stuff is happening around us, and that
Mhm.
we don't have to consume ourselves so much with things that are happening if we just change the way we intake them. So
And
I love that you said that.
Well, and I think it's difficult to do that when you have the rest of the world telling you, and this circles back around to the whole creating environment for yourself thing. But when the whole world, especially entrepreneurship, you know, pin boards and Instagram
Yeah.
stories are all telling you that you have to have X, Y, and Z and do X, Y, and Z. It's so easy. And I'm raising my hand because I was one of
Yeah.
them, just trying to grow to be successful, was so focused on that kind of stuff that I was, you can't physically see me because it's an audio podcast, but like I was ignoring my purpose that's behind me.
Yes, yes. So the thing about really attracting people who really can grasp this and understand that no matter where you are in your entrepreneurial journey, that this applies to you possibly if you haven't really honed in on purpose. What happens
Mhm.
is people are out here running businesses and connecting to their audience, or assuming that they are connecting to their audience in a way that's impactful, but they're not getting any engagement. People are,
Mm.
and they're not, it's not an authentic, real, like genuine connection to what it is that they're doing. What most
Mhm.
people do is spend their time marketing and talking
Mhm.
about the thing that they do, right? It goes back
Mhm.
to one of the books that shifted everything for me, which was Start with Why, Simon Sinek, Start with Why.
Mhm.
It was
Mhm.
the summer of 2018. I read that book that really lit a fire up under me to say, you can do this, right? Um, but it's really about really identifying what it is that you do for people, right? We hear
Mhm.
this enough. If you're an entrepreneur and you're an entrepreneur and you have looked into any type of marketing, you've heard this. Get people to understand, what emotion do you connect with them? What
Mhm.
problem do you solve for them? What need do you meet? But what happens is that people identify that, and then they either detach themselves from it, or sometimes we have entrepreneurs that make their businesses all about them, right? What they
Mhm.
like, what they love, what they think the consumer needs, and we don't do the time to build actual relationship.
Mhm.
So when I bring people in that are really searching for the messaging, they're really searching for what to say and how to say it and how to show up in that space of uncertainty, really is where I feel like I can identify and say you would be a perfect candidate for really connecting to purpose. Because when you
Mhm.
understand what the end goal is for the person that you serve, you really get very clear about how you speak to them and what you say. I often encourage my clients to look at it like the people that you're doing business with, your ideal target person, you're dating them. You're
Yeah,
courting
I
them.
love that.
You're absolutely in a full blown
Mhm.
relationship. So whoever this person is, they're base. So give them a name, understand
Yeah.
everything about them, make them very real and specific, right? And how that connects to purpose is because when you understand one, and just to kind of backtrack here before I start diving down the whole of understanding your ideal target person and how to make that specific, really connecting to purpose helps you to really understand one, your side of the story and why you're
Mm.
connected the thing that you do. And when
Mm.
things get hard and difficult, or when it's frustrating, not getting engagement from your audience, or something goes awry in your business, what keeps you moving and what helps you to motivate is understanding that what you're doing is not just about something you just randomly picked up, that
Mm.
this is meant for, this is ingrained in who you are. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? And so you have a deeper sense of connection to the thing that you do when you really understand that it's more than just about choosing to be an entrepreneur, because everybody's not built for this. And
Mm.
so if you have the boldness to get up and say, I want to be an entrepreneur, and you feel like this is the lane you're in, then it's in your best interest to understand exactly what you're meant to do and why you're meant to do it, because you were crafted for the very thing that you were put on this earth to do. And when you
Mm.
understand that, it gives you a different type of fuel and fire to get the job done. You wake up with a different sense of purpose. When you wake up in purpose, it's different than waking up feeling like you got to do tasks, you know? And you approach problems differently. You approach everything differently, because you realize that even if this doesn't work out, something else is going to work out, because guess what? This is what I'm supposed to be doing. It's
So
really about a mind shift connecting to purpose for the entrepreneur. And
well,
then,
let me ask you with that before we get into like digging and like finding your like your target person and that sort of stuff
sure,
is how does one, maybe someone's listening and they've been feeling a struggle, they're not getting that authentic engagement like you had mentioned, or they're
mhm,
finding issues in their business. How do they figure out, I'm kind of like looking at a fork in the road. How do they figure out if going to the right means, okay, I just need to dig into my purpose a bit more, or to the left of maybe entrepreneurship's really not for me?
yeah. So I think so that feels like two different things a little bit to me, because if
Mm-hmm.
you're contemplating and debating on whether entrepreneurship is for you or isn't for you, um I won't say that you aren't built for it in that way, because I think we all kind of wake up and think, really, is this, do I need to? I think there's always that
Mm-hmm.
moment for us that we get to that space. But for most of us, I think the ones that are going to be successful and elevate to the next level, that road, we have to close the door to, is this not for us? And
Mm-hmm.
really shift to the space of saying, we're just going to have to figure this thing out, because there's no business out here, really, in understanding there's no business out here
Mm-hmm.
that has not dealt with trying to figure stuff out, or dealt with failure, or dealt with a challenge. And so we have to understand that challenges really aren't made to make us say, maybe this, I'm not built for this. That challenges are there to just push us to figure it out. We were created to move through challenges and to figure them out as entrepreneurs. We're all out here just trying to navigate through it. And
Mm-hmm.
so seeing what works and what doesn't work. If really digging into the purpose and really shifting into that, and looking into that, what it does is, it helps you to do the thing that you're struggling to do with connecting to your audience. So I want to use one of my clients as an example. And she is a brokerage. She's a broker. She's in real estate, and she has a brokerage that she started. And she came to me looking for direction. And I want to use her story as an example to kind of help you understand the importance of what connecting to your purpose can do when it comes to connecting to your audience and
Mm-hmm.
getting to that next level. And she
Okay.
came to me, and this was her story. Her story was, when she was younger, her dad was going off to another city to make way for them, because they were going to be moving there. He had a job opportunity that was happening there. He left them, and went off to make a way for them. He came back, and something happened, and things didn't go right. And they ended up not moving to the other city. But they did end up moving out of their house into an apartment complex. And when they moved into the apartment complex, she remembered that life shifted for them in a lot of ways, and things changed. They weren't able to do some of the things they were able to do, and life just kind of, went to the left. And she was lying in bed one day with her sister, one evening with her sister, and she said she remembers looking at her sister and saying, "I think we're poor." And and they laughed about it, because they were young. And she said, "I think we're poor."
Mhm.
And now she's in this space of trying to put people in homes. And as I began to
Mhm.
ask more questions and listen to her more and more, I really got to the bottom of understanding that she really honestly felt like being in a home, no matter what, was the foundation for having a good, healthy family.
Mm. Mm.
Right? That was her connection. That's what she identified with. That's what she believed in her heart. That's what she cared about. That was something that she believed in. And so what we were able to do with that messaging was say, well, this is why you put people in homes, and you can take this very unique message and angle and say that you believe home ownership is the foundation for any good family. And if you're looking to build a family, no matter what that family looks like, no matter what the makeup, whether you're a
Mhm.
single parent, whether it's a whatever your family is, a home is the foundation for building that. And what happens is that everybody that believes that gravitates towards you. And
Yep.
then when you believe deeply in something and it's connected to your actual beliefs and who you are, then
Mhm.
you understand and know how to talk about it. You understand the needs, you understand the desires, and you're able to show up in your marketing in a way that is uniquely catered to who you are. And you don't have to try to create
Mhm.
terminology and thoughts and emotions that aren't stem from what you genuinely believe. Does that make sense?
It does. And I feel like these sort of things, well, let me back up for a second. So as you're talking, I've been dealing with our own realtor stuff. Like we've been looking for a home. And so I completely identify that I've been polarized by some people who are more about the mechanics. How many beds do you want? Do you
Sure.
want this? Whereas you have others that are, because much like your client, I have a family. I want to be in a family friendly area. There's specific things, it makes me feel and having this. So I've had other realtors that connect with me on that level. So that just resonates like completely. And I see it in my own business as well, that it's easier when I sit down to just speak. But what I often see happening, especially if you're getting distracted by the millions of leaders out there telling you have to offer all this and do all this and do all that, is they're being told, okay, pick what you're going to offer, get a copywriter, get it on your website. And I'm like, hold on a second. We're
No.
completely missing, unless you get a really good copywriter that works with you and basically is a brand clarity strategist like you, they're just speaking and creating sales pages and website pages that are going to be void of what exactly you just said, like that natural terminology and emotion.
Yes, because at the end of the day, we have to remember that people make buying decisions based off emotion, majority.
Mm-hmm.
And what connects people to brands and to different things. Let me tell you an example I use Chick-fil-A and Apple. I'm like really groupies for the way that they market.
Same.
and,
Same.
and let me tell you the secret to how they market. I'm gonna blow your mind with Chick-fil-A because I would imagine that you don't know this. I'm gonna bank and put it out there that you probably don't know what I'm about to tell you about Chick-fil-A.
Blow me away, girlfriend.
I'm about to blow your mind. All right,
And
get ready. I hope
then
this
I'm going
works.
to go get Chick-fil-A for dinner.
So the reality is that people do business with people they are comfortable with. People do
Mhm.
business with people that they feel like they know and like. At the end of the day, people will buy
Mhm.
a mediocre product if they feel connected to
Yep.
whatever it is that it is. Right? People spend tons of money on name brands and things that they have an emotional connection to, even if the product doesn't always hold up to standard, and even if there's something
Mhm.
better out there, if they feel connected to whatever that message is, whatever the story is, whatever it is,
Mhm.
people will blindly spend money and their emotions will draw them to that. If you connect to consumers' heart, you connect to their wallet. Chick-fil-A. If you're not familiar with Chick-fil-A, I don't know what planet you're on, but they are
Yeah.
fast food chicken restaurant that people absolutely love. They overuse the phrase "my pleasure." They will give you 7 to 9 sauces if you ask for them without blinking. And people really often talk about, when you ask them what they love about Chick-fil-A, they will tell you it's the customer service, it's the experience, right?
And ain't the chicken sandwich. That's overrated.
It is overrated. I agree. I love you already, Rachel. See, we're on the same page. So let me ask you, Rachel, do you know what their mission statement is in 2020?
Um, no, but I'm guessing that it has to do with connectivity, maybe during pandemic. Tell me,
Okay.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I think this was their mission statement before the pandemic. And their mission statement is, and I'm paraphrasing, but I'm giving you the very important parts, is to glorify God by
Mhm.
having a positive encounter with
Mhm.
every person that connects to Chick-fil-A.
Mhm.
That's it. They just want to have a positive encounter with every person that they connect to. That is their entire mission. So what happened was these people who started Chick-fil-A said, you know what, we just want to have a positive influence and impact on every person that we connect to. Let's open up a chicken restaurant and sell mediocre chicken for $10 and just love on people. Oh my
Yep.
God, that's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
What they did was they identified what they were purposed on this earth to do for people, and they picked an avenue to deliver that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So when you pull back the veil on your business, you have to ask yourself, what were you created in this world to do for people? What do you feel like your purpose was? What are you meant to give people on this earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can pick whatever avenue you want to do that. If you want to do hair, do hair. If you want to sell, books, then sell books. If you want to do seminars, then do seminars. But you have to start with the feeling that you want to give people. And so
Mm-hmm.
many times people just decide to pick a thing to do, and they
Mm-hmm.
neglect to really understand and know what thing they're giving to people, because that's what's going to sell the thing that you do. That's what makes them successful. People who solely understand what they are meant to bring and give people in this world, and then they create a way to do it. And it can look like anything, which is the beautiful part. But so often we try to get caught up in finding purpose in the actual mechanics of what we do, the logistics. And the
Mm-hmm.
purpose isn't found there. It's found in what do you love doing? What do people come to you for? What do you feel like you were created on this earth to do and give people? And as an entrepreneur, that's where you want to start. While you can probably do a lot of things great with your hands, you really kind of got to dig into the heart of the matter and say, well,
Mm-hmm.
what am I naturally created to do?
I love this because that's one thing that I have, and I'm very transparent on my podcast about my failures and things I've done in the past. And I fell into the whole got to be mechanical, got to do the checklist,
Yeah.
got to put it out here, got to talk about the specs. And it's funny that you mentioned Apple because during the beginning of the episode, I was thinking of the example of people. I mean, for so much, like for majority of people out there, I mean, so many people use Apple products, iPhone specifically. I'm not running to buy Apple because I care about like the megapixels of the camera, because of the processing speed, etc. It gives me a solution to my problem. I want to be able to have my business and my life portable in my hand so I can
Yeah.
go on vacation with my kids and I'm still able to stay connected if I need to, if I want to. And so, but for me, I know, and that's why I love like your also example of Chick-fil-A is they hardly ever really talk about how juicy and amazing their chicken sandwiches, which is not.
No.
And they talk about the feeling because it's the transformation feeling, like you said, that you want people to feel. And it's less about the specs of the product that you're giving them.
Absolutely. Overwhelmingly, when I ask people what they love about Chick-fil-A, very few people say the food. Most people say it's the experience. Most people say customer service and the experience. And I thought that was so interesting that a fast
Mm-hmm.
food restaurant, that the thing people love about it is the way that Chick-fil-A makes them feel when they come through.
Mm-hmm. Well, like for me, I value things that are quick and
Yes.
fairly quality when it comes to fast food. The other day, I don't even know where I was at. I was picking something up. Maybe it was Panera. Sorry, Panera. But I even texted my husband and I was like, I could have gone around the Chick-fil-A drive-through line 3 times by now and I still don't even have my food here. But it
Yes.
goes back to the mission statement. Positive encounters also include not just the feel good, right, of getting to the heart of people, but it's providing that it's a very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a very resistant free type of environment. I go through, I ask for sauces. I don't have to sit here and like, be upcharged 15 times. They throw like
Yes.
1,500 sauces in a bag. They make it very easy for you so that it's positive. And then it's easier for me to give them my money.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll tell you two radical things about Chick-fil-A that I really have been contemplating begging them to let me go through their training process to see how they brainwash these employees. But one person told me that they saw a girl jump out of a drive-through window because somebody drove off and forgot something at a Chick-fil-A. I said, you are kidding me. They were like, no, I'm telling you, Miranda, she jumped out the window. And then the other thing was my personal experience. I remember pulling up to the window one time and I had legit left my wallet at my job. And I got to the window, and that's when I
Mm-hmm.
realized I didn't have my wallet. And I was trying to explain to her, I'm sorry, I forgot my wallet. And she, without even blinking, said, oh, as she was handing me the food, don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
Just the next time you come through, just pay us then. I'm sorry, what?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I hate to be putting this like out in public because I feel like, honestly, I feel like no matter who does that, they're going to give them the food. I just feel like
Mm-hmm.
they're never going to turn anybody away.
Well, if y'all have learned anything from this episode, you know how to get free food from Chick-fil-A. But we're not condoning that. So, oh, but I've been there and I get it, and that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's given a resistant free experience so that it is a positive one. And I think I love that. I keep honing in on that phrase from their mission statement, and you've said it multiple times through here, is we could even transfer that back into this purpose aspect, right? When
Yeah.
I'm finding my purpose of what I want to do, but also how I want other people to feel from what I'm doing. Because if you're not, if you don't have both of the pieces of the puzzle, you're not going to be able to serve people and serve yourself, like the goals and dreams that you have for yourself, if you don't have both pieces.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's absolutely vital to the strength of your business. Being successful is not just a quick fix. There's no quick fix for it. And you really
Mm-hmm.
have to weigh everything. You have to understand what your unique messaging is. You really have to understand who the person is you're talking to, because how can you speak to someone and change their world and their life if you don't know anything about them? How can you connect to an audience that you don't try to understand? And it's really not as complicated as we think. It's just about simply building relationships, right? Understanding
Mm-hmm.
what they care about, what they need, and really organizing your business. I also find that a lot of entrepreneurs aren't organized in how their business shows up. So they don't have mission statements or visions. They really haven't put a stake in the ground about the services that they want to start out offering. And so it allows that room to fill all over the place. They haven't thought
Mm-hmm.
about having a plan and a strategy. So when you get to social media, most people are lost as to what to say and how to show up, and they're reaching for other people to give them content ideas. But it's
Mm-hmm.
because they haven't identified these first two things, like what's
Mm-hmm.
your purpose, what's your unique message, and who are you talking to?
Mhm. And I
Um,
love that because it's easy now when I like sit for the most part. I mean, it's never always easy. Some days you struggle with writer's block, whatever. But when I sit down to do social media, those two pieces of what you just talked about, if I just sit and think about that, it flows right out of me what I want to say.
yeah, let me tell you what I do, Rachel. My ideal target person, I don't have an audience. I have a person that I show up in my brand for the
Mhm.
last couple of years that I've been working for myself. And I talk to her every day. Her name is Bridget. She's 33 years old. She's single, no kids, and she's a nurse and has a side hustle that she wants to turn into a full time business, but she just doesn't know how. She socializes with her friends, hangs out at bars when this is pre COVID, right? And she likes to shop at places like Dillard's and Belk, and she travels to all the vacation hotspots like Mexico and Florida and Dominican Republic. And she just wants to not leave this world without fulfilling her purpose or feeling fulfilled,
Mhm.
right? And this is Bridget. When I show up on social media, Rachel, every day, I'm sending a text message in my caption to Bridget. When I write
Mhm.
the captions for everything that I post about my branding and marketing and brand strategy stuff, I pretend like I'm sending a text message directly to Bridget. So I use words like, hey, I use direct words. I don't say, hey,
Mhm.
everybody, hey, guys. I'm like, hey,
Mhm.
what are you doing with this? What are you struggling with this? Did you wake up this morning and feel like going back and lying back in the bed because today just wasn't one of those days and you felt like hiding from the boss, but you realize you're the boss, right? I'm talking to Bridget because I know what she's struggling with. When you
Mhm.
get very specific about that person, when you get to the caption part, it gets easier. That's why I write out
Mhm.
my captions from my phone so it'll feel personal.
Ooh, I like that. I mean, I never really thought about that the way that I'm developing the content, right? This whole methodology of, the purpose and who I'm talking to, but the fact of actually doing it on the phone brings a whole personal type connection because it's like I'm picking it up and messaging my BFF from college, not sitting down to schedule 4 months of social media content.
Yes. And the
Hmm.
purpose of really my clients really struggle with creating an ideal target person because I make them make her specific. Like I said,
Hmm.
Bridget's 33 years old. Bridget is a female. She's black, and people are like, but I want to serve everybody. That's fine. That's fine. First of all, nothing is for everybody other than tissue. We learned during the pandemic, tissue is for everyone. But most things aren't for everyone. And so getting really specific and narrowing down your ideal target person to a specific person like I did, what it's for is for you, the entrepreneur,
Hmm.
so that you can talk directly to this person. I speak life into Bridget every day. And what happens is everybody that speaks that same language as Bridget, everybody that has the same needs and desires as Bridget, people who have kids, people who are older than Bridget and younger than Bridget, but that can identify with me getting specific about how I'm helping her,
Hmm.
gravitate to me.
Mhm.
That's the trick. It's not
Mhm.
about eliminating them. It's about getting specific and niche in how I talk and help Bridget. And so I'm not out here trying to help the 55-year-old lady who is a gypsy. I'm not out here trying to help the
Mhm.
25-year-old girl that just came out of college too. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
you're all over the place trying to speak to all these different type of people. But when you really think about it, and if you're honest, every business, brand, and thing that's out here has a ideal, specific, almost stereotypical. What we're taught not to do is put people in a box, but they almost have a type that is perfect for what it is.
Don't put them in a box. Put the box down and have them stand on that box and speak to
Yes, I love that, Rachel. Yes,
them. No, I
stand
do
on
the
the
same
box.
thing. My girl's name is Ava, and she's basically me. And so I've seen an evolution in my business and my messaging because Ava has gone through similar things that have also revealed to me purpose and what I want to serve. And so it evolves. Has yours evolved at all?
Yes, mine did evolve. In the beginning, where I thought it was a much younger crowd, I realized that I was attracting the early to mid 30s. So for me,
Hmm.
it did evolve into a more mature type of entrepreneur. When I really originally thought I was going to be attracting a lot of Generation Z.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
mhm,
Well,
absolutely.
that's awesome. So that we've seen this process of how you are specifically setting yourself apart as a brand strategist. You're having clients come in, you work on purpose, you work on whoever their ideal client is, get them a name, get them very specific, have them stand on the box. Where do they go from there? I mean, we don't have to go into the whole process. I just want to give them, anyone listening, and invite all of y'all. I'm going to put all of Miranda's stuff on our show notes page, but like after that, what are kind of like the forward looking steps?
After they complete the process, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, identifying their purpose, getting their client avatar or audience avatar, whatever you want to call it, that ideal person that they're trying to serve and reach. Where do they go from there? I feel like that's where a lot of the overwhelm and paralyzation comes from.
Absolutely. So, and I'm glad you said that because at the end of a few of my sessions, I had clients to say, Miranda, this was way more than I expected, way more than I thought, way more information. And I found, and I was really stunned when this started happening, that multiple people would say at the end of the sessions, this was beautiful. I loved it. It shifted, but now I still kind of am like paralyzed. I don't know what to do with all this information.
Hmm.
I really want to encourage people to understand that you really just have to start, right?
Hmm.
Where I think without a doubt, and I believe wholeheartedly that having a plan and a strategy is also very essential. To have a plan, like this is where you want
Hmm.
to go, this is the direction you want to go, and you will be amazed how many people don't dream big. They don't know what the end game is for their business. They're
Hmm.
scared to think steps ahead because I think out of fear of failure, fear of it not happening, fear of having to hold themselves accountable, and so forth. It could be like a list of things. But you really do have to set a mark and a destination and say, this is where you're going. Because
Hmm.
if you get in a car and just start driving, and then at some point you're going to get to water and realize that your destination was China and that you're not equipped to get into the water, right?
No,
In 2020, nobody's destination was China, but still, that
no one's destination was anywhere outside their house. That's for
anywhere outside their house in 2020. But still, China was the one I used all the time, and then the pandemic hit, and it's hard for me to stop saying China. So
I know, I know. You can substitute any place
any
that's
place.
far away.
I would say Bali because Bali is where I want to go one day. So,
Oh,
so, but this to bringing it back to your business, you really do have to set that stake and say, "This is what I want my business to look like." I want you to dream big and think about it, and then
mm,
come back to where you are in that space and say, "Okay, what things can I start doing to move there? What is the next actionable step that I can take?"
mhm,
And really sitting down and coming up with a plan for the way that you market. So once you identify your purpose and identify who you're talking to, then you just got to start building the relationship and having the
mhm,
conversation, right?
mhm,
So you have to
mhm,
set up a marketing strategy, figure out where's this person, what are they doing, how are they, connecting to you, how are they, what are they doing in the meantime, who's doing something that you're doing, and how are they connecting to their audience. Most people are connected and addicted to social media, so really, I transitioned into social media marketing because it's free
mhm,
and it's where most people are.
mhm,
And really understanding that there are so many things fighting for our attention, not just in our phones, but also in this world, that the better you understand to really stand on that unique message and really talking directly to one specific person is how you catch my attention on the timeline. The
Mm-hmm.
things that stop me on the timeline are things that resonate with me personally,
Hmm.
and so you want to make sure that you understand who this person is. That's why it's so vital to understand it. Again, it's like dating. Like, how do you know if you're dating somebody and you bring them flowers and you bring them roses and they're like, yo, I hate roses, I'm actually allergic, right? It's
Yeah.
very equivalent to how we treat our target audience. We give them the things we want to give them instead of what they actually want and need. It's like the 5 love languages. Think about it like that. Get
Ooh.
intimate and affectionate with your audience. Stop viewing them as numbers and data and look at them as
Mhm.
real people. And then you'll start talking to them and meeting the needs as real people. And this is what connects you. So the next steps are just to show up, start showing up.
Mhm.
And the only way you can get to know somebody is by having a conversation. People are scared to get it wrong. And there is this overwhelming desire from people to be perfect, to have everything hit the screen. When they hit, when they do their website, it
Mhm.
has to be perfect. When I post, it has to be perfect. But the reality is that you're trying to figure out who your audience is. So you have to ask questions. You have to put things out there and see what's working. You have to put a post up and then just be okay with the fact that this post didn't do as good as the other post. And as an entrepreneur, you have to pay attention to those trends as you're moving along to understand
100%.
who's moving towards you and what they're liking and what's working and not working. You really do
100%.
have to play the game of connecting.
I was having this conversation with our team this last week. We were going over analytics, and I don't know how many times in the span of like 30 minutes I was doing our whole like monthly report. I was like, I would have never thought that that would have resonated. And then I was like,
Yes.
why did this one not resonate? Like, where's the engagement on this one? And it's just revealing to me because, I went through these steps like you talked about. So I was like, oh, this is what I'm going to put out there. But what trap did I fall into? I was putting out what I wanted to put out, not what they were wanting to consume.
Yes. So we have to learn how to put ourselves down a little bit and
Mhm.
create a brand that your person loves. And I started creating a thing that Bridget loved. And even if I didn't care for it or I didn't think it was whatever, I had to remember this is what she's responding to. This is what she needs. And so I need to give her more of that.
Well,
And to just
for
remember.
example, I'm an attorney. People don't
Mhm.
love talking to an attorney, right?
Yeah,
So what
right.
I do is I get them in because I'm fun and drink coffee with them, and then I stick them in the backside with like all the legal stuff. I hit them upside the head with that later. So like you got to coax them in with the things that they want, and then you give them really what they need to. I mean, I'm not saying bait and switch. That's not what I'm suggesting, but you can slide in there, especially if you're the expert. You know what they need. They just may not be buying that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Just find out what it is they need. Just have the conversation, try things. I just want to encourage entrepreneurs to just try stuff. We're so scared to try because we're scared to fail. And the reality is if we could fail in private, we would fail more often. And the
Mhm.
biggest, when you peel back
Mhm.
fear of failure, it's really based on what people see in the perception. It
Yeah.
has little to do with failure because failure can't harm us. Failure can only teach us. When things
Mm.
don't work, it can only teach us what's not working. It is the thing we need in order to do the right thing. It's like a navigation system. This didn't work. I need to go another way. But if we could
Mhm.
fail without people seeing us, people would take more chances, Rachel. They would.
Mhm. I love it. And I think that's a wonderful place for us to kind of end here because and by the way, y'all listening, normally we're a very quick podcast, but as you can see, Miranda is like right on point. The last month we've been talking about simplifying, getting into your messaging, and I love her added level of digging into your purpose. And so I really wanted to walk through this entire process from beginning to where we're ending here, not only just because there was great inspiration, but there were so many great foundational nuggets for you, whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or you're just getting into it. And even I've learned a ton just sitting here talking it through. This is something that I feel like you should always be working on. You have to see, are there changes in who you're serving? Are there changes in you? Is there new things that happen in your life that maybe has shifted your purpose? And how does that impact your business? So I love this, Miranda. Thank you so much for bringing this on. I am going to put all of your contact information on the show notes page. I want y'all to dig in, take a look at all that she has. I know that when I was poking around, I saw that you have discovery calls, 30-minute consult calls, all the way up through like a complete branding experience, which as y'all have seen, you got the goods here. You got to see the real inside hard stuff. You're not going to be talking just colors and fun terminology. You're going to be digging into your purpose and how that intertwines and how that fulfills you. Because my entire brand is about real business, real life. And no point in having a successful business if it's not supporting the life that I want to have. So I encourage all of you, this was a long episode, please feel free to pause, go back, listen, take notes. As always, we're going to have the show notes page and we'll have information there for you, some of the resources that we talked about here, as well as all of Miranda's stuff. Don't forget to please jump into the Business Bites Podcast Facebook group. As always, we will have a thread specific to this topic, and I want to hear about y'all's purposes. I want to push the envelope here. I don't want to hear just the standard who your client avatar and all that is. That's wonderful, and we've gone through a really good process, but I want to hear your purpose. And the reason for this is the professor coming out of me. I want you guys to push and really tangibly use this episode to drive your business forward. So again, thank you, Miranda, and everyone, I will talk to you next week.
Thanks for joining Rachel on this episode of the Business Bites. For show notes, a list of recommended tools, or referenced episodes, you can find them at businessbitespodcast.com. Until next time.